Hi everyone, I'm Sloan from SloanBella.com and I'm back with video number 2 on Michael Jackson, the channeled video series on the child superstar, adult superstar, and probably one of the biggest worldwide entertainers of several different generations. Now, I know I'm back sooner than later with the second video. It was kind of interesting because I was uploading the first video last night to YouTube, and as I was sitting, I was actually in my room and I was sitting there on my computer and I was, just putting the little description down, and I felt somebody peering around the corner of my bedroom door. So I looked and I thought it was one of my kids, but it didn't look like them, but I just automatically think that's who's going to be peeking around my door. And it wasn't. It was a very quick kind of glimpse of a youngish Michael Jackson. And this would be before he really got famous with the video Thriller. So it would be his young man appearance, in his early 20s, mid 20s looking Michael Jackson. And his hands were on the door and he peeked around like this. So he was peering at me, and it's almost like I could telepathically pick up that he wanted to know if it was okay for him to talk to me. And that's really a weird thing to say because I'm not really talking to him, it's a telepathy. So it is something that's placed in my head where I get the feeling like you should look up now who's standing in the door, but I really did catch a glimpse of him. And what he was putting into my head was I mad at him or was I willing to talk to him? And that's really interesting because I'm thinking to myself, I don't know you. I don't really know anything about you on a personal level other than what I've read. Why would I be mad at you? I mean, I might not like what I've heard in the media, but why would I personally be mad at you? It makes no difference to me. You're you and I'm me, and I don't really know you. It's not like you're really literally my child. So he kind of peered in like that, and he was giving me the okay to step forward. So through the night, and as I got up this morning, and as you know, before I actually do a video, I will go out and run to get my information. Sounds weird, but it's what I do. It's how I meditate. It's what I do every day. It's my discipline. It is how I ground my energy and how I focus. It's an important part of who I am and something I've done every day of my life since I was 6 years old. So for a very, very long time. Michael Jackson's energy distinctly came through to me as in two different split energetic forms. So there's a split in his energy, and that's the first thing I want to try to describe, and I hope I'm going to do it justice. I'm going to try to describe the split energy I saw around Michael Jackson. It's almost like it was a twinning energy. What he was describing to me is that he was outside of his body quite a lot. And when I asked him what that means, and again, I'm speaking in a telepathy, I'm asking questions in my mind, like when you walk through, your daily life and you walk through a party, but you don't want to say something out loud, but you're thinking to yourself, like, why is this person doing this? Or why is he doing this? Or she doing that? That's what I was asking in my head. What do you mean by this? And the understanding that I got from him, it was kind of a feeling that washed over me. Now, his life started to change and was severely altered when he was about 9 years old. This is where I went in my mind. And from that point on, his happiness, and the way that he showed me happiness, was being free to sit outside in the sun and feel the sun on his skin. That's kind of how he was describing being happy to me. Just being able to sit, and he was showing me like a cement driveway, and he was drawing on the driveway with something, and it was just like a moment where he was a typical kid. He was about 9 years old, and the sun started to come out and he could feel the sun on his arms, and that he really enjoyed. That was a feeling of happiness. After that point, I don't see the same happiness, and he asked me to look at his eyes. He said, look at the eyes. So the eyes were different throughout his life. Not from plastic surgery, but the look through the eyes was different. And as I asked him what it meant to be split into two different people, he began to describe that before the video Thriller came out and he reached that epic level of fame, like that huge famous point in his life, he began to feel like he was outside of himself. So he was showing me him, Michael Jackson, that we saw on camera or on TV, wherever, in concert. And then he was showing me him in spirit. And he said, I walk alongside myself. So I thought for a minute, did you die at some point? And I don't know, they take you and make a body double of some kind, and that's what it was. And I'm not sure if that's what he was trying to say, but he was definitely showing me his energy outside of himself. What it reminded me of is when a woman gets pregnant and she's carrying the baby I will often see outside of the physical body until very late in the pregnancy, if not like the final day before the mother is about to go into labor. But I will see the spirit of the baby around the pregnant mother, not necessarily internally. Like I won't see it through her energy field. I'll see it walking with her energy field. And that's the impression I got from Michael Jackson. Now he's explaining to me, it's interesting because I want to go into the child abuse allegations with him and I want to feel what that is. And let me just preface this by saying, if you have a child that is in the entertainment industry and you want that child to be a Michael Jackson or a famous actor or whoever, and you want them to do it and you start them off at age 5, 6, or 7, he's kind of saying you're going to take the sunshine out of their life. Like you're going to ruin the childhood memories for them. And what's really interesting about it is I'm feeling a lot like the parents that were involved. And I'm not talking about the people in the recent documentary. I'm talking about all the other children that came before him. What Michael's making me feel like is he himself, and I can see where the confusion is between the people that know and love Michael Jackson as an entertainer and are ferociously fan-based and will defend him at all costs and call you crazy and say that he was an ultimate spiritual being. And then there's the Michael Jackson, the human being. And then there's the Michael Jackson that isn't the real Michael Jackson that lives inside the Michael Jackson, which sounds insane, but that's kind of how I'm feeling it. So what I want you to understand is that the Michael Jackson that I'm seeing that peered in my bedroom door in a very shy way is not the man that would hurt children. That person is very shy and very reserved. And he's basically showing me that he was thrown outside of his body energy field just before the time frame of Thriller. Now, if I'm correct, and I actually didn't look this up before I came and did the video, I should have, but I believe Thriller hit its pinnacle at about 1984. So I'm assuming he's talking about prior to that, maybe 82, 81. I'm thinking it was 83, 84 Thriller came out. It may have been earlier. If it was, go back a couple of years to that. And he's showing me that he stepped outside of his energy field. So he was no longer in control of the physicality of the body, which was what I was picking up yesterday when I was sort of trying to pry into why you would do that to your face. What was that plastic surgery about? Nobody does plastic surgery like that, even if they are a Virgo, and he was a Virgo with a double Pisces rising and moon. Although there's some discrepancy that he had an Aquarius rising with a Pisces moon, but changed his birth date so that people couldn't pry into him astrologically, which a lot of actors will do because they don't want people, my kind, prying into them on a planetary way, astrological way. Either way, whatever he was a Virgo sun, and they can be quite perfectionistic. So I get it from that standpoint, but to the degree that he did it, I was very confused about that because that didn't actually feel like the essence of who he was. And what he was showing me is there were some insecurities about his look, the darker skin, the way that his nose looked, but he wasn't completely unhappy with the way that he looked. Like he didn't look in the mirror as a kid and go, I'm an ugly kid. I've got to fix all of this stuff when I hit adulthood because, you know, I'm hideous. There was none of that. He had the normal insecurities and probably the insecurities of being, you know, a young man, a child growing up in entertainment with people critiquing you all the time, those insecurities. But what I'm being shown is he was constantly doing plastic surgery after he started doing plastic surgery, which he didn't agree to. So I'm not sure what happened there, but he's making me know that he didn't agree to the initial plastic surgeries. They were sort of forced on him. And I almost am believing that this is somebody, talent manager, agent, saying you need to look like this or you need to change this, like they did with the actors back in the day when they told them they were too heavy or they were too whatever, and they would have to fix themselves. I feel like it's something like this, but he's going on it in a little bit more of a sinister way. So he's saying that when he talked about the skin disease that he had and those things, that wasn't actually true. They kept forcing him into plastic surgery to hide who he was. So there's something going on with him where he's distinctly two different people. There's at least two different people in there. And I'm feeling like one of them is a decent person on a soul level, because that's the person I'm communicating with. And I'm feeling like he keeps asking if I'm mad at him for some reason, which I'm assuming he knows how much against child abuse I am. So he doesn't know if I really want to talk to him, but I'm telling him he's in spirit form, so it's okay. He's actually got shame about that, but he's also letting me know that that wasn't actually him. Michael wants to know if I'm okay talking to him, if I'm mad at him. And I'm assuming that he means it's because I'm, as most of us are, highly against child abuse and highly against abuse of power with a child, sexually abusing a child, beating the shit out of a child, whatever it is. He didn't do that. But what he's saying to me was that a lot of pedophiles will tell you when they get caught, it wasn't me, I, was abused as a child, I had these issues. So they will try to deflect from their part in the child abuse, because it does carry with it a lot of shame. I mean, if you're actually abusing children, even if it's a predilection, you have to know this is unacceptable in society. There's nobody that says, yeah, go ahead and do it. But he's telling me, this is different. He's saying actually the group that he was in and the people that he was around, this was part of the indoctrination into the level of celebrity that he was in. So he's saying it's not so much that he liked children as he's talking about his sexuality. Obviously, he liked children and was sexual with some children. He's not really denying that, but he's basically saying that this was expected of him. And here is a different point that he's making. As he started to become famous, he was interested in men around his age. So I believe he's telling me that he was homosexual. I know there's been some people out there saying he wasn't. I think that his sexual preference was for men. There's nothing wrong with this. This was normal for him. It wasn't about children. It was about, normal people in teenage years. They go with people their own age or a year or two around them. No problem with that. But what he's saying is, as he developed into the powerful megastar that he was becoming, he was made to feel like children were what he had a predilection for. And he, at this point on the other side, is not sure that that's actually what he had a predilection for. This is a very screwed up mindset from a person who is still partially unclear about their motivations, actions, and reactions to their circumstance in their life. So he is very confused by his own actions and what people say about him. Hence why he said to me, are you mad at me? And let me just say, having worked for 30 years with organizations like Children of the Night, Freehab, and with foster parents and clients who have kids that have been sexually abused, carry the shame and guilt with it, I've made it my life's mission to try to help people energetically, from a psychic perspective, from an intuitive perspective, to live in the moment and let go of their shame connected to their past actions. We are not defined by what happens to us in childhood through the actions of an abusive person. I've tried to help people. I am extremely against child abuse, and I would just say this out there. If you have kids and you want your kids to get into the entertainment business, the singing business, the skating Olympic business, the hockey business, whatever it is, do not let your kids go to anybody's house without you right there overseeing them. You are the parent, whether you be the male or female. Grown adults do not put you in that position to make your kids vulnerable to an attack like that if they truly care about your children. If they have an agenda, they're going to try to separate you from your children. And I don't care if the person is whoever, the most famous person on the planet, you don't allow them to have sleepovers with your children. I'm saying that to you, and I don't care who the person is. You just don't do it. If you're going to have somebody who's going to mentor your kids in the entertainment industry, you should be going on the auditions with your kid. You should be on the set while your kid is filming, dancing, skating, whatever they're doing. And you should be the one that is consulted. You should never leave your kids unattended in a grown adult's bed. Number one, that isn't a family member. Number two, you better be careful which family members, because a lot of abuse goes on in the home. So I blame a lot of parents out there that are I want to call them star fuckers. They'll put their kids in any position thinking their kids are going to get wealthy and famous. Now, this is where Michael kind of cuts my energy off. I had to start my camera again because he keeps making the camera blur in and out. I've got it on a completely different setting. It just moved right there. Okay, I'm trying not to look at it because it's making me crazy. But so I have to keep starting and stopping the camera because his energy is kind of meshing with it. But what he's basically saying to me is it wasn't his intention to put anybody on a spiritual level in a position to be seen in a way where he could have violated them. He recognizes that in a metaphysical, spiritual sense, that if you truly love children on all levels, you don't put them ever in a position to be seen as a victim or even to be seen in an inappropriate action with an adult, even though most people wouldn't blame the child. You don't allow their soul to be seen that way. He is saying that he was forced into those actions, which could be the pedophile trying to distract the information, or he's telling me that this was a group, like a hive mindset, like this is what they all did. And he is basically showing me that before Thriller, and it's blurry again. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see that. It just went blurry. I'm going to shut it off and start it right now because I know you can't see me. My face just blurred out. Okay, now I'm back and the camera is in focus. It's just ridiculous. I have it on focus where I focus it and I'm not really moving and it's still doing the nonsense it's doing. As far as Michael Jackson's concerned, before Thriller, and that is the timing that he keeps pointing out to me, there was some sort of arrangement made with him where, and I'm seeing this, there's an electric blue couch. There's a couch in an office with a bar behind it, and it's very like retro decorated. It's like royal blue but neon blue couch material fabric. There's a mirror behind it. There's like a bar. There's bar drinks and crystal glasses. He's asleep on this couch. When he wakes up, there is a man there. Now, I do recognize the man that's standing over him, and I will just say he's the one that threw the party around Whitney Houston when she was laying dead upstairs at the Beverly Hills Hotel. He continued on with the party because he didn't want to interrupt his party. So I'm speaking about that same Clive Davis. I'm seeing his face and I'm seeing him look at Michael Jackson, and I'm seeing this arrangement go on. I'm seeing something handed to Michael and I'm seeing him look at it, and suddenly he's under the impression that this is who he is. So now that he thinks that this is who he is, this is how he behaves. But it isn't him because he's showing me he's split. He's split like twins. He's one egg or one fragment tag of energy, but he's split into two different directions. He walks with himself, but is not himself. He keeps saying this to me. I'm really going to have to work on what that is because I truly don't understand what he means. I don't understand because when I hear people speak along those lines of thinking, what usually it's in reference to is when somebody has made a deal to make a lot of money or to marry a certain person or to get a certain job established in society. They've done this and they've kind of sold out. And so the minute that they do that, remember this, people, before you think you need to have that much money and that much power, the minute that they think they've done that, they're thrown out of their body and they're basically held away from themselves. That's what I think happened to him, and I think that that's what he's saying. And I believe that that's what all the plastic surgery was about in his life. The plastic surgery on the face to conceal who he was that wasn't him. That's what he keeps saying. That's what I'm saying to you. This is the information I'm getting. When I'm looking at the energy of Michael, what I'm getting the distinct feeling about is he was made to believe that he was a pedophile or interested or had a predilection for children. It was almost like Stockholm syndrome with him because the person I'm seeing on the other side is not the same person that we saw on this side. This side, he was definitely a pedophile. I mean, you have the mark of a pedophile. Quite frankly, I have to say this is the mother of two boys. No grown man wants to take other people's children on little holidays in the bedroom and not come out for weeks on end. That's just a pedophile. So I'm going to say that. Michael, on the other side, is making me feel like somebody told him that that's what he was. Now, let's look at this in a different way. Sometimes we will see people in our society that Michael's making me feel like on the other side, he's a distinctly different person. He was walking alongside his body. When I jump back to look at Michael's energy, I really get the distinct impression he was a victim of like a Stockholm syndrome, or he was indoctrinated into thinking like a cult mentality. I'm recognizing that this man was basically shoved out of his body for some reason and was only able to visually watch what he was doing and align alongside it. Now, this really makes me think that he was participating in some kind of ritual. You have to give into the fact that there are rituals that people can do in order to gain power and in order to metaphysically enhance their life, things that we don't know about. And I'm going to just ask you to entertain that idea. Doesn't even really matter if you entertain that idea, they believe in that idea. So when people believe that they're doing something in order to gain money, power, and fame, or their family does it for their kids to gain money, power, and fame, that's exactly what's happening. And the problem is a lot of people don't think it's real. And when they find out it's real, they end up shoved outside of their body because they basically align themselves away from the God source or God energy, and they're not able to connect with the body. The soul is over here, the soul is manipulated out, and then the soul has a hard time coming back in. He's really making me feel like that. He's also making me feel like the people around him indoctrinated him into believing that that's who he was. So there are huge time lapses in his thinking when he wakes up and suddenly he's with children and he doesn't know why he's with children. I really feel like he was a gay man. I feel like he should have been dating people close to his age in a homosexual relationship. That's what I get from the spirit energy I'm speaking to, but from the person I observed on earth, quite a different tale that tells. I will also say the shy person that came to me last night is entirely different. The power that Michael Jackson had on earth made him quite a controlling person, and I see that. He also wants to talk about his children, and I'm going to do another video on that as well, but let me finish first with, and by the way, his daughter Paris is not crazy. She's not really suicidal. I'm not saying she isn't suicidal, but that's not really what's going on. They keep saying she's suicidal to shut her up and distract from what's going on. I'm not saying she hasn't thought of it. She's a teenager. She comes from a very public spotlight family, but that's not really what's going on. He's very aware of that, and he's with her in that journey. He does have love for his children in a non-perverse way. Like, he actually loves his children. What I'm going to say about the plastic surgery with him is interesting. He was trying, when he was lucid and around his body and felt like himself, he was trying to make himself look like himself the way that he recognized himself, but he never could get back to seeing himself the way that he was. This is what he's showing me. So it was very confusing for him to live looking at himself the way that he looked at himself, because it wasn't how he recognized himself. And people kept doing this surgery, sometimes against his will. As he tried to become himself, they tried to pull him away from himself. This really sounds like a spiritual struggle going on. He definitely made some very, very poor choices for himself. But if you think for 1 second that he went off this planet the way that they describe, you are wrong. And I will be back with another video. And once again, my name is Sloan from SloanBella.com.